So recently the Sonic community has been fighting a lot. I know, real shocker. But you may be asking, what is the Sonic community fighting about now? Is it the shoes? His eyes? Perhaps maybe even the quills? No. Unfortunately, it's not anything fun. In fact, this might be some of the most brutal Sonic discourse I've seen in a while. Maybe it's not as bad as the Sonic Frontiers announcement, because that was terrible, but you know, we're getting there. Some blood is getting shed on the battlegrounds that is Sonic Twitter. What the Sonic community is debating is whether or not classic Sonic should coexist with modern Sonic. You have half of the community who believes that classic Sonic should receive games alongside modern Sonic, and then you have the other half of the community who believes modern Sonic should be the one and only Sonic. This debate has been going on for the past couple days, and it all started with another creator I know, Unleash, who dropped a video announcing that he wanted classic Sonic to die. Like, straight up, he ain't holding back nothing. He wants that body bag. And, you know, ever since then, you had people like JNextV and Premi to Remy make their videos giving their piece. The point is that this is a very important discussion in regards to the future of Sonic. So what's my take on this? Am I an ultra giga chad modern Sonic purist? Or am I a polyamorous classic Sonic enjoyer? Well, I'll answer that later on in the video, but that's not why we're here. That's not the main purpose of this video. I'm not making this video for the sole purpose of giving input on this Sonic Superstars discussion. I, in fact, want to have some fun, create some chaos, if you will. Through all of the arguing of whether or not we should have one Sonic, a subtle sub-debate has been occurring. I've noticed that there's been a lot of biases thrown into these debates on which character is better, which doesn't really make sense because at the end of the day, it is just a model. A model for Sonic doesn't determine how good a Sonic game is. That just simply does not make any sense. Yet, Sonic fans persist with their biases that modern Sonic is better or that classic Sonic is better. So you know what? I'm gonna answer that question. Which is better, modern Sonic or classic Sonic? I'm going to be comparing all aspects between these two characters and their runs in the franchise, and I'll be determining which is better. Now, before you bring J. Cole, the man himself, into a Sonic argument just to tell me that two legends can coexist, please consider that this is my opinion, I am biased, and this is a video that's not meant to be taken seriously whatsoever. Classic and modern Sonic have both made some great games and made some very valuable contributions to the Sonic brand. But honestly, I don't really care. I'm going to make them fight to the death, and last man standing survives as the best Sonic. By the way, I am extremely biased, and as you'll see, I will only be speaking subjectively. If you want objectivity, this is not the video. So without further ado, we're going to go through 3 different categories, being characterization, the games, and the legacy. All 3 of which are very important in their own ways. Make sure to bonk the subscribe button and hit the bell, and with all that said, let's get right into it. Let's start with characterization. Now, right off the bat, most of you will probably say that modern Sonic has better characterization solely because he kinda has a character. He speaks, he quips, he drops one-liners. Yeah, that's definitely a character if I've ever seen one. But I wanted to give classic Sonic a fighting chance here, because whenever people talk about characterization, they only factor in dialogue, and don't get me wrong, dialogue is very important, but it's not the end-all be-all, if you catch my drift. Classic Sonic, without even speaking, is still a fantastic character with a lot of personality and charm. The reason why I think it's perfectly fine to prefer either Sonic is because both Sonics portray a different style of storytelling. Modern Sonic is more dialogue-based, maybe even a bit more complex and ambitious, while classic Sonic tackles story in a show-don't-tell fashion. When you see classic Sonic in the game, his sprite work makes him look determined through the character's expression. There doesn't need to be a one-liner when Sonic already looks tired of Robotnik's BS. You can see more of that determined and edgy style to classic Sonic in the Sonic CD cutscenes. And those cutscenes just perfectly encapsulate what Sonic should be, or at least what classic Sonic should be. Nowadays, classic Sonic is kinda hit or miss on if he's cool. In games like Sonic Mania and the Sonic Origins cutscenes, he looks really cool. I think he's in character on those. But then you have games like Sonic Generations and Sonic Forces, and this model just sucks. I'm sorry, but I just hate this model so much. I made an entire video about it. It feels too corporate, it feels too cute, it's not cool at all. There is no edge with this character. It looks bad in Sonic Generations, and it also looks bad in Sonic Forces. And then when it comes to Sonic Superstars, it's kinda weird. In some renders, he looks very cute and punchable, but then in other renders, I don't know, he looks kinda cool. However, we have to be honest with ourselves, and when it comes to the actual game of Sonic Superstars, he just looks fine. Everyone is screaming up and down, "Oh, Shima is back! Classic Sonic looks good again!" I don't know what any of you guys are talking about, because when I look at the Sonic Superstars model, it just looks the same, but with more expression, and that's it. This character does not look cool at all. It looks like a glossy and more polished version of the model from Forces and Generations, which looks bad in my opinion. I wish they could have recreated the edgy and cool Sonic CD Classic Sonic, but for some reason they love using this boring and cute model that I feel nothing from. But I'll give you guys a break, alright? I'll make it fair for Classic Sonic. I will only judge Classic Sonic by how good he was back in the 90s, because I feel like that was his peak. Now, let's compare it to modern Sonic. When you enter the 3D timeline of Sonic games, it does away with the whole show-don't-tell style of storytelling in favor of something more dialogue-driven and ambitious. Modern Sonic has had quite a few bad stories. Let's just not beat around the bush here. Stories where the dialogue is boring or not memorable. So in terms of consistency, Classic Sonic's character is much more consistent and has less low points. Granted, Classic Sonic hasn't had as many chances to fail as modern Sonic. So again, we're going to be judging these characters by their peak instead of how consistent they are. And in my opinion, the peak of Sonic's character was Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic and the Black Knight, and Sonic Frontiers. Some honorable mentions are the adventure games. I just don't count them because their dialogue has not aged very well. So let's just keep it to these 4 games. In terms of these 4 games, I found these stories to be very enjoyable and in my opinion are the best Sonic stories. And I'm just gonna come flat out and say it that I vastly prefer this style of storytelling. These 4 games show you how to make a good Sonic story and they all have modern Sonic's characterization down perfectly. This is what Sonic should be in my opinion. This is cooler, this is edgier, this is my kind of Sonic. So while Classic Sonic isn't a bad character whatsoever, modern Sonic just has more characters, so I feel like it's an obvious win. 1 point goes to modern Sonic. Alright, let's talk about the big one, the games. I kinda hate comparing the games because at the end of the day, it's a model. Sonic Team was very close to having Classic Sonic be in Sonic Adventure, so at the end of the day, Sonic is Sonic. There's a possibility that Classic Sonic could have led 3D Sonic and it would have been just as bad. But you know what? We'll still compare the games because why not? Starting with Classic Sonic. He has a fantastic catalog. You got Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic CD, and Sonic Mania. All of these games are fantastic video games. They are some of my favorite platformers of all time, and I feel like I'm not even doing it justice by saying that. These games are great. Now, let's look at modern Sonic. The modern Sonic games that I enjoy a lot are Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Advance, Sonic Rush Adventure, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, Sonic Generations, Sonic Lost World, and Sonic Frontiers. That was a lot. All of these games are also great in my opinion, yes, even Sonic Lost World. Now, when you put in that perspective, it appears that modern Sonic has more good games than classic Sonic. But is that fair? After all, modern Sonic has had 22 years worth of games. Classic Sonic only had about 7 years of games. So is it really fair to compare the two? Here's what I'll do. I'll make a top 5 modern Sonic games list and a top 5 classic Sonic games list. And then we'll determine which is better from there. For classic Sonic, we basically just have all the classic Sonic games. We have Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic CD, and Sonic Mania. For modern Sonic, we have Sonic Colors, Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Adventure, and Sonic Unleashed. Now, let's compare these top 5s. Which top 5 brings me the most value? On one hand, I got Sonic Unleashed, my favorite Sonic game ever. But on the other hand, I have two masterpieces just sitting there waiting to be played. To be honest, I think I knew the answer in the back of my head. If I made a top 5 Sonic games of all time, I think it would look like this, showing that there would be 2 modern Sonic games and 3 classic Sonic games, thus meaning that there are more classic games than modern games in my favorite Sonic games of all time. So even though I think it's kinda stupid to debate which one has better games solely because it is literally a model, I do, unfortunately, have to give the point to classic Sonic here for having better games on average. It honestly pains me so much to do this because I feel like some of you guys hype up classic Sonic like way too much, alright? If we brought up consistency in this debate, classic Sonic would be on par with modern Sonic. Nobody likes to say it, but let's be honest here, classic Sonic wasn't consistent either. Because for some reason, every classic Sonic purist likes to forget that the Game Gear games are butt-booty garbage. The only decent one is Sonic 1 for the Master System. The rest fumbles the bag. Tails Skypatrol? What even is this? Sonic Drift? Sonic Blast? Sonic 3D Blast? This ain't even funny. You guys got a whole catalog of bad games. Classic Sonic may have some absolute bangers, alright? These 5 games are untouchable. But do not act like you guys were sunshine and rainbows because the Genesis Sonic games carried you guys. At least with modern Sonic, we had games like Sonic Rush, Sonic Riders, Sega All-Stars Racing. I'm not pretending we're perfect. We definitely had our Sonic 06s, Shadow the Hedgehogs. I'll even give you Sonic Heroes. But at least our side of games weren't total booty, alright? This sucks. I'm sorry. I had a lot to get off my chest. 1 point goes to classic Sonic. Even though Sonic Unleashed is better than every classic Sonic game, you can at me on Twitter, I do not care. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on to the final one. Which Sonic has the better legacy? To be honest, I think it's almost a tie here. Almost. Most people watching this video might say it's obviously classic Sonic, but I think you guys are somewhat underestimating modern Sonic. I see so many insecure Sonic fans all the time talking about how modern Sonic is hated and modern Sonic games will never be good and that classic Sonic is loved, but I don't think that's true. Most casual players do not care about the whole classic Sonic versus modern Sonic thing. I'll make my case for that in a moment. I just think that Sonic fans get too overwhelmed by game critics and what IGN is saying instead of what the actual players are saying. Think about the average player who is probably in school or working a 9-to-5 job and just comes home to play a game on his free time. Even the vast majority of you watching can agree. You do not care about whether the next game is modern Sonic or classic Sonic. You care about if it's going to be fun or good so that you can eventually get it one day. And for the average 9-to-5 worker that comes home and just wants to enjoy a Sonic game that he heard was good online, he's not going to care about if modern Sonic has green eyes or not. In fact, I think just generally, most people want to play 3D video games. And to a further extent, a 3D Sonic game. If you're not convinced, think about it this way. Sonic Mania, one of the best Sonic games of all time. It was very well acclaimed, everyone loved it, even the critics loved it. It sold over 1 million copies. That's impressive, alright? 1 million copies is a big deal. Most video games don't hit 1 million. Now, let's look at Sonic Frontiers, a game that was not called a masterpiece, but rather was simply called good. It was labeled as the first good 3D Sonic game in a long time. It sold over 3.5 million copies at a larger price than Sonic Mania, and I can guarantee that is not the final sales number. So, do people care about modern Sonic more, or do they care about classic Sonic more? Which legacy is stronger? Here's what I'll say. It's neither. People don't care about whether the game is starring classic Sonic or modern Sonic. They care about whether it's 3D or not. If it's a 3D game, more people are simply going to play it because that's the next mainline Sonic game. Neither Sonic determines whether or not people will like a Sonic game or not. Maybe it does for Sonic fans because some of you guys are crazy, and I feel like the same people who are not buying modern Sonic games because they're not classic Sonic, I think those are just a vocal minority. minority. Let's be honest here, if you're a Sonic fan, most people are going to buy Sonic Superstars or Sonic Frontiers because we eat up everything they make. But the average Joe does not care. They do not care that Sonic has green eyes, they just want a 3D game where they go fast. There's nothing wrong with that either. I personally prefer 3D games over 2D games in general. In a 3-dimensional space, you can do a lot more. It's a lot more expansive, a lot more opportunities, so to speak. 3D video games are just more appealing, so it doesn't matter if it's classic or modern. If it's 3D, people are gonna buy it. So in the reality of this situation, I don't think legacy matters. Legacy only matters to people on Twitter who want to debate about Sonic on whether his games are good or not. So to go back to the question I asked at the beginning of the video, I do not think classic Sonic is a detrimental issue to Sonic Superstars. I mean, I'd personally rather have a 2D modern Sonic game because modern Sonic is cooler, and I also think Sonic Team would be more willing to experiment with a modern Sonic game. When you get classic Sonic, they like to stick to the formula and not experiment much. With modern Sonic, we can get something cool like a Sonic Rush game or something like that. Or something completely new and fresh. Superstars is just classic Sonic done again. Which, if it's good, it's good. I'll enjoy it just like everyone else. To be honest, I think classic Sonic should die. Regardless though, the game can still be great even with classic Sonic. Even though I might not prefer that, it can still be good. And that's because legacy does not matter. But if you guys really want to give the point to one of the Sonics, I guess classic Sonic gets the point. Because yes, classic Sonic does have more positive reception surrounding the name. Twitter kids do refer to classic Sonic as the better Sonic in arguments, so I guess classic Sonic has to take the point here, thus making classic Sonic the superior Sonic. But that's just stupid, alright? Classic Sonic may have won the video, but modern Sonic won the spiritual battle because he's better. Who cares about who had the better games or whatever, or who likes which character more? None of that would matter, because if I was given the choice between two masterpieces, one with modern Sonic and one with classic Sonic, I am choosing modern Sonic every day of the week. Modern Sonic is cooler, the character is better, the stories are better, I don't care. Modern Sonic is better, in my opinion. It's just an art style and a tone for Sonic that I much vastly prefer. Both classic and modern Sonic are just characters. So we can debate about which one had the better games, better character, better legacy. It doesn't matter because they can both be amazing and both can be total garbage. So, why did I make this video? Why did I come up with a 3-point format to prove which Sonic is better, only to tell people that none of them are better at the end of the video? Well, it's because I wanted to waste your time. Anyways, with that said, make sure to be an excellent Samaritan and hit the subscribe button with the bell. I love you guys. I'll see you very soon. Peace out. My chill members are Snack Pigeon, Neol, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, make sure to correct me in the comments, Scully, Francis T218, Sonic Man 7153, Monic, ArcherXYZ, Bananas, Junion Rings, Chip Chip Chop, The Squeaker Nerd, Super Shaddix Boom, Super Saiyan Sonic. Thank you all for supporting the channel. Make sure to click one of the end card screen videos here. My voice is dying. I love you guys. Peace out.